Hello again, it's Laura here with another interactive slider card. This time when we pull on the slider panel, the flowers bloom. It's a very simple mechanism, even easier to create if you use magnets, like I did in this recent version. If you don't have flowers or stars, you could use hearts or even letters. Okay, let's get right to it. Off camera, I drew a straight pencil line on a piece of prickly pear prestige cardstock. Here I'm centering and adhering the row of flowers from the Spring Garden Dynamics with a couple of pieces of tape. I'm going to do the same with this die from the Slimline Grassy Hills Dynamics, but first I'm grabbing the rectangular die from the Slimline starter set and the cute bear from the Sprinkling You with Love set to make sure that everything fits. Okay, this arrangement is perfect. Let's keep that die in place with a little tape and run it through my die cutting machine. Now I can carefully peel those off and use an eraser to get rid of the line. We need to be careful, especially between the flowers. Next, I'm using the before mentioned rectangular die to cut a strip which measures 7 3/4 by 2 3/4. I also used it to cut an 8 1/4 by 3 1/4 inch panel of Lazy Day Prestige cardstock. I have to trim it down to 2 1/8 inches so that the grass barely covers it. Off camera, I cut a strip of acetate that measures about 1/2 inch by 2 inches. I use my scoreboard to fold it in half. One edge is going to be adhered to the green panel, then it's going to wrap around the edge of the blue panel and be adhered to the back of the bear with foam tape. It's harder to explain than to do. If we're using magnets, we can just adhere 2 of them to the pull tab or slider panel and the matching 2 to the back of the bear. As you can see, that's exactly what I did in this one panel card. The reason why we need 2 magnets instead of 1 is that the bear would slightly spin while pulling the slider panel or pull tab, and we wouldn't want that to happen. Let's move on to the assembly of today's card. Off camera, I used another Slimline panel with faux stitching as a template so that I could temporarily adhere the green panel to the blue one with tape and still maintain the correct measurements. Now I'm adhering my slider panel from the Slimline Slide-In Dynamics to the back of the main panel, again holding it in place with tape so that I can add foam tape to the 3 sides. Almost done. Here's the last piece of it. I'm going to trim that with my scissors and there we go. Okay, let's see if the panel can slide smoothly but snugly before moving on. Yep, this looks good. It's time to add a piece of score tape to the acetate strip. There we go. Now we can peel off the backing and adhere the strip to the left edge of the slider panel just by inserting it in its place between the strips of foam tape and pressing firmly. See how the acetate moves when we pull on the panel? That's exactly what we want. So that the slider panel can move nicely, I need to elevate the grass panel by adding another layer of foam tape to the back of it. And that's what I'm doing here, carefully and slowly. Before moving on to the final assembly, let's mark the center of the slider panel and stamp the word pull from the interactive label set to the edge of it. This is probably my most used stamp set. We're finally ready to assemble. To make it easier to adhere the panels to the 8 1/2 by 7 inch card base scored at 3 1/2, I'm once again holding them together with tape. Now I can peel off the backing from the foam tape and carefully center and adhere the panels. I edited this a bunch because my big head kept getting in the way. Okay, let's get rid of the blue tape and see if it works. Yep, no problem here. Now let's grab a piece of foam tape so that we can adhere our main character to the acetate strip. There we go. and soon I discover that there is a slight problem. We need to add some sort of stop so that the slider panel doesn't go too far. But a tiny piece of foam tape adhered to the right where the grass and the sky panels meet will do the trick. Now the slider panel won't go too far. We're almost done. The flowers didn't really look like flowers without a centerpiece, so I grabbed the Polka Dot Pops Dynamics and some lemon drop cardstock backed with score tape and adhered them with the help of a needle, since I couldn't find my tweezers. Now they are looking a lot better. My initial idea was actually to adhere colorful flowers directly onto the card base, but I was afraid that the slider panel would catch on them, and it would have been a hassle to inlay them. So this seemed like a much easier solution. Another option would have been to color them, but there isn't a lot of space for that either. For the sentiment, I used a stamp from the Sunflower Sweetheart set. I heat embossed it onto a stitched fishtail banner of heavyweight translucent vellum. I decided to make a sticker out of it with the Cyron sticker maker, since the adhesive is very thin and clear. Before adding the final details to my card, I thought that it would be a good idea to use my ballpoint stylus to really press down on the flower centers. That way I'm making sure that they won't fall or interrupt the movement of the slider panel. And here's the finished card. Thank you so much for watching. As always, you can find all of the relevant information in the YouTube description box below. Share, like, leave a comment or subscribe if you feel like it, and have a great day. Hasta la próxima. Bye bye.